Okay, well, thank you so much for everyone coming to Treatwell's first live stream meetup. My name's Louisa, I'm a product designer at Treatwell, and I'm hosting tonight's event. Firstly, thank you so much for being here on such a sunny evening, and thank you so much to our panelists who've got some incredibly insightful lightning talks for us. Just some quick housekeeping before we set off. I really encourage everyone to use Slido to ask our speakers questions. If you want to ask someone something specific, just write their name at the beginning and then the question. We'll be recording this panel talk and we'll send it out afterwards in case you miss anything. If you are tweeting, please use the hashtag #TreatwellLivestream, and you can follow us on Twitter with @TreatwellTech and as well on Instagram. This event is in partnership with our friends at District 4. District 4 was created with the aim to revolutionise the recruitment industry and completely redefine community-led recruitment. Naomi, who's helped us so much with this evening, is a UX and product design specialist, so please do get in touch with her if anyone needs support. She's also a mentor on ADP List. To give some background about this event, obviously no one could have foreseen a global pandemic of this scale, and no one really had any reference points to look back at to see how to cope with it. In spite of anything, I personally was fascinated by the evolving digital economy and the way that tech companies were responding. So now that there's some light at the end of the tunnel, it felt like the right time to reflect on the last couple of months, to learn from each other's successes or failures, and to inspire the future of digital products. So with that in mind, let's jump into it by handing over to Seb.
Great, thank you very much. So everyone, thank you very much for having me here. I hope everyone's keeping well. I'm delighted to kind of be amongst this amazing panel to share some insights that hopefully all of you can learn from as the observations that we've made since we've lifted lockdown across some of the European markets that we operate in. So I'm Seb, I'm the head of product here at Treatwell, and I look after all the product teams who build our marketplace website and app. So for those who don't know, Treatwell is a marketplace that is helping consumers in 11 countries across Europe connect with salons to book their perfect home beauty experience. So we have around 25,000 partners and salons on our platform, but as the pandemic spread and high streets across Europe became desolate with shop fronts having their shutters down and closed signs on the doors, this effectively ended up overnight giving us a platform with 0 partners on there. However, that didn't mean that we forgot about them. As an organisation, we made the firm decision to stand by the industry and really support it through this time of need, making it our mission really to help keep all of those 25,000 salons in business and be there as a partner to salons in the future who may need us past lockdown to also be able to survive. Without these partners, Treatwell really can't be Treatwell. So to show our support for the industry, we actually stopped taking monthly subscription fees and charging commission on our bookings, although in honest there weren't really that many going through the platform at that point. And in effect we'd become a 600-person organisation with 0 revenue. Now, as Louisa said, there is some light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm really happy to say that we're now open in 9 markets, and we're seeing some really interesting changes in behaviour. As a business, we did go through a lot of refocusing and deciding how we would steer our product strategy to get through these times. I think there's actually a whole nother talk for another time that hopefully people can learn from as to how to adjust your product strategies in times of needs. And tonight I'll just focus on these changes in customer behaviour that hopefully other people can take away and be inspired as to what that means for their products. If you ultimately think about it, every single consumer has had their kind of habitual hair and beauty behaviours and routines broken. So it's caused a big shift in changes for how consumers book these products. So The first thing that we've noticed is we see, thankfully, a big increase in online bookings, with consumers opting to book online for ease and convenience, whilst actually, because people's normal habits have been broken, they've kind of been forced to change their routine. So in some markets that have opened, there are no walk-ins allowed, so booking actually is required. And we see this significantly within the male demographic, who typically would have just walked into a barber shop or not necessarily booked ahead. We've actually seen a 100% increase in traffic from men's related haircuts on the platform. As well as new people coming to the platform, we also see loyal customers within salons also starting to book online. So being referred from our partners as they realise that actually people booking online, whilst there's such high demand, is the easiest way to be able to manage their diaries and be able to also give services to people without having to constantly pick up the phone. The second thing that we've noticed is with a lot of people being at home, actually a lot of inner city bookings have significantly declined, as people now really go and try and find something that's a lot closer to their home, and obviously typically most people are working in inner city areas. We've actually seen that 60% of our customers have now gone and booked somewhere that they didn't previously go and visit at all. So even in a market that is traditionally as loyal as ours, you can really see that people are trying to just find that fix near to them. And we see from all of the increase in Google traffic that people are going to Google to try and find out about their local neighborhood that maybe they haven't potentially explored in the past. We've also seen really interesting things around pricing and the time that people are booking. Like, it's become very apparent that obviously for a lot of people the struggle has got real, and demand, because of the increase in demand of everyone trying to get their hair and beauty fixes, people are actually a lot less price sensitive at the moment and a lot more flexible about when they have their appointment. Prior to this, we used to have a clear distinction between peak and off-peak, but those lines have now actually really blurred as people kind of nip out from their working from home to go and get their much needed beauty fix. Immediately after lockdown, we've also seen a 35 to 40% increase in the average order value that people were booking. And this is driven by the fact that people were kind of booking more hair-related services, more expensive services in the colouring sector as well. But it's fair to say over time, actually, this is just returning now to the normal kind of AOV that we had before these times. Discounting really hasn't been needed at this time because demand is so high. But, you know, I think the thing for us is to kind of see how this evolves over time. When people book has also changed. The kind of just-in-time culture that we used to have of last-minute bookings has seen a significant shift. We see very few last-minute bookings, and I think this is mainly driven to the fact that people have, like, the demand is so high that people have actually got to go and do a bit of pre-planning because the short-term slots are no longer available. And interestingly, we used to see spikes before the working day and at the end of the working day of when people would place their bookings. But it's fair to say working from home must have changed people's productivity slightly, because actually we're seeing a complete steady booking flow throughout the day now without the spikes that we used to see before work and after. Obviously, this is the immediate effect that, like, there is people aren't as price sensitive, but honestly, I think over time there is an initial thing right now that there is a demand to get yourself that haircut that you've been dying and waiting for the last 8 weeks. We actually think, you know, from the research we've done, that the price sensitivity will come. It's just that right now the demand is considerably higher. And then finally, what we're really seeing is that there is a lot of uncertainty out there still. Some research that we've done has clearly shows that people are concerned about hygiene and what procedures are in place for their appointment. We've also seen an interesting behaviour that people have started to filter a lot more on our product. They're going into filter. Sadly, they're not being successful with that. So they're obviously looking for something, we honestly don't know right now what it is, and we're trying to dig into that, whether that's hygiene related, whether it's about cancellations, whether it's about flexibility, or just whether something is genuinely open. This uncertainty also is coming through with the fact that people aren't willing to prepay for their appointments ahead of time. And I think this shows that people are still uncertain whether something's actually going to go ahead, or whether they're really able to commit to that. And we see that the fact that consumers are still cancelling at a much higher rate than they were at a pre-corona time. So there's definitely still this uncertainty about attending and going out into the wild, I guess is what it is now. We have seen that we've had record booking days for us as a business, but that really doesn't mean that we're safe. We've managed to acquire some of the new customers and different demographics because of the circumstances, and now it's our job to learn from them and help them see the benefits of forming an online booking habit. But more importantly for us, it's kind of imperative that we now try and foster loyalty for these consumers with their newly found partner, and support this industry that I'm sure all of us have learned over the last few weeks that we actually really, really need. So yeah, thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Seb. So that was super, super helpful. Kim from Analog Folk, I think, is going to be our next speaker. Ready to present?
Probably be helpful if I unmuted myself, always. So I'm Kim. I'm from Analog Folk. Analog Folk is basically a global digital creative agency. Work with lots of different brands on a lot of different products and services. And basically our slogan is to, we use digital to make the analog world better. So that's all well and good, but who am I and what do I do? So I've been working with a leading alcohol producer that owns some of the world's biggest beer and spirit brands. Can't actually say who, sorry. But anyways, I work on the experience strategy. Basically, I use behavior change methodology to help them define the best experience to meet both user and business needs. And then ultimately, I help them define what changes they need to make in order to get there, both in the short term, medium term, long term, everything like that. So before the lockdown, a lot of our engagement with them actually concerned their B2B and employee experiences, along with another just CSR project about improving people's relationship with alcohol. But, clients' needs have changed. So COVID-19 hasn't just changed consumer needs and behaviors, it's also changed what our clients need. And if you're from an agency and you're watching this, then, I'm telling you something that you probably already know. But it's completely changed in a lot of ways, including, what they want to focus on, what they have budget to do, and just how to even keep their businesses open a lot of the time. So in normal times, basically, in order to grow, you need to talk to everyone all the time, at least if you listen to Byron Sharp. But according to marketing science firm, not the discipline, they released some research suggesting that in recessionary times, this logic actually changes. So that basically, instead of looking for new customers, you need to look for the best experience for existing customers, and that's going to help you grow. So if you're an alcohol brand, this means that you need to make sure that your existing customers obviously have a good time, but more importantly, that they have a healthy relationship with your product. So 21% of people are drinking more frequently during lockdown, and 15% of people are actually drinking more per session in lockdown. This is actually increasing your people's unhealthy drinking behaviors a lot. That is not ideal, generally speaking. So basically, if you're trying to look after your existing customers and you have an increase in unhealthy drinking behaviors, what do? You prioritize your CSR project if your CSR project is our CSR project. And that is what we did. So great. How do we actually deal with that? So a thing to look at here, or just a huge part about this, is who we are hasn't actually changed, but our behavior has. And so why has this happened? Basically, mindsets and motivations have always been the primary drivers of decision making. And this is probably something a lot of you guys know already, but I'm just going to say it again anyways. But the challenge is these kind of things are really difficult to measure. So compared to demographic information like age, gender, household income, everything like that, that's quite easy for us to actually find out about for different people. But none of those things actually tells us why things are happening. So the problem with using demographics over mindsets, that doesn't really become apparent when circumstances are stable. But when you lock people in their houses for 2 months, basically all bets are off, and it becomes really, really obvious that demographics aren't actually reliable predictors of behavior. So you heard me say mindsets.
What are mindsets? We're not seeing like all your slides.
Oh, are you not? Damn it. That I thought might happen. So I'm going to do this the sad way. Sorry, guys. Did you see basically just the first slide the entire time?
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry.
So here you go. I'm now going over my allotted time frame.
Sorry, I'll allow it. Go for it.
Great. Who am I? What do we do? Client needs have changed, not just your user needs. I had this whole building diagram and everything. It was great. You guys missed it. But yeah, so 21% of drinkers are drinking more frequently, 15% are drinking more often. That's bad. So you have to look after your existing customers and have that. And with that increase in unhealthy drinking behaviors, what you have to do is you have to prioritize your CSR project. Awesome. How do you do that? So look at mindsets and everything like that. So mindsets over demographics. Demographics used to be, easy enough to actually use as a predictor of behavior because just everything was normal. But as we come into these times, then everything has changed, even though who we are hasn't actually changed. And so that helps us realize that we need to actually look at these mindsets and everything in order to actually find that. So what are mindsets? Mindsets basically define the way that somebody is thinking when they interact with the brand. So in order to do that, it helps us actually start to predict their behavior. So it's not about who we are, it's about what we're thinking, and it's about what that interaction is and what is important to us at that particular point in time. So basically, there's a bit of a silver lining that nobody ever really saw coming, I guess, or wanted to see coming. But the fact that we are in these completely batshit crazy times has actually helped us a lot with selling in the mindset approach. So something that we found working with the client is that we had all of these things where people are suddenly starting to realize that demographics aren't those reliable predictors anymore. And we had this thing that we're working on with our client, and we're saying, okay, cool. How about this approach? This is the approach we're having. And people are actually starting to listen because they weren't able to do that before. And because of that shift in behavior around alcohol, there's more people within the business actually starting to listen as well. So again, lightning talk, really, really fast overview. If you have any other questions, let me know. But 3 things you can take away from this are basically, if you're an agency or if you're, anyone really, just think about the fact it's not just your user needs that have changed. Your client needs have also changed. 2, if you want to grow, you got to look after your existing customers. Everyone I'm sure is probably going to touch on this, but it's become so important. And lastly, design for how people think, not for who they are. And that's going to help you go a long way in all of these. So thanks. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
Thanks, Kim. Don't worry. We'll send. If it's okay with you, maybe if you wanted to send the presentation
Absolutely.
around.
I mean, it happened to somebody during this.
Hey, so. It always did. At least you're second, so then at least we all learn from it.
Exactly. Learn from mistakes.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much. It was also all recorded, so everyone can review it at a later date. So next up is Avi.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Everyone is seeing what I'm seeing?
No.
No.
Yes. No, yes, sorry.
All right, cool. 8 minutes, let's do it. So, Iwoka. So, my name is Avi. I'm the head of design and product at Iwoka. What is Iwoka? So, this is kind of what we're going to go through. This is what we're going to go through in the next few minutes. Iwoka, we're giving money to small businesses. We're providing finance. We're allowing small businesses to grow. And our mission is to fund 1 million business owners. We're doing pretty okay. We're on track. The company started in 2012, so that means we're 8 years. In the year, almost 2 years that I've been to the company, we grew from 150 people to 325 people. We have a lot of happy customers, and we give a lot of useful money. Usually, customers come to us for two reasons. One is the good scenario, and two is the bad scenario. And you can imagine that COVID created the bad scenario, but I'm gonna kind of explore both of them. So in the good scenario, customers come to us because they have some sort of ambition. They want to grow. They want to open another branch. They want to buy another oven for their business. And sometimes the bank doesn't factor small businesses in a very good way. Small businesses are very tiny. They don't have an accountant that kind of manages all their accounting. And they also sometimes do mistakes, very much like startups, only it's like smaller mistakes with no investor money or some very little investor money. And we are there to support them. Whereas so far in kind of the reality, the banks were with less risk appetite to support those customers. And therefore they kind of came to alternative lenders like Iwoka. And Iwoka works in the UK and Germany. So that's kind of in a nutshell of what we are. Obviously, the bad scenario, and this is also what happened to all of our plans that we have, that we had for this kind of period of time, is when something goes wrong. Either a customer didn't pay you and you can't pay salaries, or you made a mistake and suddenly you received a huge VAT bill, or a variety of other mistakes that businesses and normal people can do. And then you need money straight away, really, really quickly. And this is kind of where we come into the factor. And so far we have developed a variety of lending products. But COVID came and we got into a collapse. So this is kind of what we were facing when COVID came. So all of the past data that we had, all the customer behavior went to the bin because the past data wasn't relevant. We couldn't rely on anything that we had before because these are new behaviors and customers are fully stressed. None of our customers had money to pay their loans that they took from us. So we had to make a lot of changes in collections. The time is ticking, so it's great to not have money, but also it's not enough that the customers have no money. They have interest accruing on their loan. In addition, they have other regular service costs like their rent and electricity and everything that they need to kind of keep sustaining to maintain their business and employees and all that kind of stuff. And finally, everything was changing on a daily basis. Lockdown kind of coming slowly. The government are coming up with a variety of schemes. First, not an extremely well scheme, then another scheme, then they're changing the scheme. There were tremendous changes in the industry that specifically affect the financial industry that we had to kind of react to. And we had a lot of reactions. So these were a bunch of our reactions. I'm going to go through in detail, so don't worry about reading all that stuff. I'm going to go through them one by one in a second. So Qual became increasingly important. As I said before, we didn't have any data to rely on. We didn't know what customers are exactly having in their bank account, what exactly are their outcomes and incomes, what is their projection, how affected are they by the crisis. And this is kind of where Iwoka was created, which is essentially stands for who is our customer anyway. Together with that kind of quality research, and we have in the design team, we have a bunch of researchers. We have 4 researchers, more like 3.5. And we kind of came and we created a variety of activities to help us understand the businesses. So the research team was essentially the team that reacted the fastest from all of our teams to the crisis and kind of worked with us through it and provided data to C-level and everyone that needed. One of those activities was creating this thing called the voice of the customer. Iwoka is built on great customer service. And in this great customer service, we have a lot of customer representatives who talk to customers, either for collections or for onboarding or for explaining just things to them so they would know how to deal with the situation better. And what we've created was a small snippet that we're sending every day to the team. And this allowed us to understand and find out a lot of gaps in how we're explaining things, to improve the service, to understand a lot of feelings of customers, and to also surface those feelings of those customers to everyone in the company. So when we are building, we know who we are building for. And when we are making a decision of not approving someone, we will really understand what it means for their livelihood and their lives. Together with that, we have also created a hub, because at that point of time, very similar to kind of what Treatwell spoke about, we couldn't give any loans, or we didn't want to give out any loans because it was very risky, and we had to have like a lot of information before we make a decision. And also we want to lend money responsibly. We don't want to give money to someone who cannot return money because this is not useful for them, and it's definitely not useful for us. I'm going to play like a small snippet for you guys to hear how a call that we had with our customer sounds like, and how we're trying to help them essentially take a loan from someone else.
So we're just ringing a few of our customers at the moment because we're keen to understand a little bit more about how they're being affected through the current crisis and the situation, and also talk to you a little bit about some of the government support that's available at the moment, to understand if you've heard of some of these schemes or indeed like applied for any of them.
So essentially the voice of the customer also became the voice of iWoka, where we kind of helped and train people and explaining people. And obviously when someone else takes a loan, it is also useful for us because they can repay the loan that we gave them. And at the same time, they're getting a better deal and a better loan because the government loans are, well, very close to free money. It's the best deal that they will get probably ever in their lives. On top of that, we were kind of working on creating like a better communication around the company. Obviously, everyone is saying, oh, Slack grew massively. There's like lots of channels. But in iWoka, we have like hyper transparency where everything is out there. And there's no like private channels unless if you're talking about specific people, individuals or salaries. Everything is in the public, which created like, it was amazing. You can learn a lot. But it's also extremely hard to digest and to, control and understand and know what's going on. So we had to create a lot of information consolidation and different ways of like bringing things together and creating summaries. And that kind of forms like the DNA of how we started using Coda, Miro, and a variety of other things. And we even took it to the next level with a variety of workshops. For example, this workshop is a workshop that was fully done and created in Figma. And you can see that, for example, you have like the whole session plan, writing ideas, and then you have post-its for each person. Then you have special comments, and then you categorize it, and everything and you vote on top of it, and everything kind of moves gradually. And we are happy also to kind of share this template later on with everyone who kind of wants to run workshops themselves through Figma. Finally, we made a bet, right? We got accredited on Wednesday to provide CBILS, which is a government-based loan for small businesses. And we didn't know if we were going to get it. We actually thought we will get it in day one. And it created this whole, you can see the amount of Slack channels, and there are actually more. We created this huge workforce, and lots of people who could have potentially been furloughed and saved money for the company and all that kind of stuff stayed working and kind of developing this thing. And the announcement kept delaying, but we didn't give up. And the bet was right because we got accredited this Wednesday. And now we are able to use something that we've built across all this time with belief to really help our customers and kind of get them out of that. And on top of that, we kind of, we tweeted and we kind of tried to get Rishi's attention, and we kind of collaborated with Stock Up Small as well. Finally, in terms of the customer behavior, this is a very challenging time for people and for small business owners. And this is something that could push people into deciding immoral decision. When you're giving a loan and you're creating laws in this like new environment, business owners can relatively easily take a loan, close the business, open another business, or just close the business and cut their debt. Whereas what we essentially really want to do is to respouse the economy, bring everything back, help you run your business better. And so this personal communication between us and them is the thing that we believe that is going to make them continue their business and like take the money responsibly, very much like we are trying to lend responsibly. Any questions, please find me on superavi.com or design@iwoka. Thank you.
Thanks, Abby. That was amazing. So insightful. Okay, so up next we have Marius.
Hi everyone, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, hear you very well.
All right, fantastic. Let me just share my screen. So.
That's okay. While you're getting set up, I would really encourage anyone who is listening, if they do have any questions, please do get on Slido. It's such a unique opportunity to have such a wide range of industry experts. I think it'd be worth it. Thanks, Marius.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Marius. I'm the head of creative at printer.com. I wanted to start off with a quick introduction. So printer.com, as it is in the name, it's an online print service. Some of the main products we have is flyers and leaflets, business cards, your sort of traditional printing needs. We have a lot of creative customers, also wedding stationers. We also provide service to the retailers and hospitality, also charity and education sectors. And in our team, we look after all the design collateral, the marketing campaigns, all the social and editorial content as well. So I'm going to kind of dive right into it and just show you how this impacted us. So as you can see from this graph, it kind of goes without saying that it's been a very tough period for our business. This is a graph showing March and showing revenue and orders, and it really started to decline from the very beginning of March and was pretty much downhill until it stabilized around the 20th of March, which is where schools shut down. And it has recovered somewhat since then. But we were very obviously nervous at that time, where it just looked like it was plummeting. And also the graph on the left shows you that all page views also follow the same trend. And we saw a loss of revenue and orders of almost over 60%, so quite a severe impact. And the largest decline came from businesses based in London. So how did it impact us? Now, for our team, we were obviously forced to shut offices like most of you guys. And because we have photography in our team, we had to move that studio to a private home. So as you can see in that picture on the left, this became our sort of low budget, humble studio, which had to serve the business with photography. And in addition, we had to stop all marketing spend. So no more advertising, no more props for photo shoots, etc. So a shoestring budget completely. And as a result, because of the low order volume, many of the production team had to be furloughed, which eventually also impacted our team. So the creative team was halved in less than a month, and new working guidelines had to be put in place. So as you can see, the factory was quite empty because people had to adhere to that social distancing as per government guidelines. So what did we do? The first thing we did was to try to stimulate sales. So we launched 4 consecutive agile campaigns, which were all done remotely. So some of them were shot in that studio, others were using recycled assets. And the second thing, which was also very important, was to give customers frequent updates on the situation. What's going on? Are we still operating? What we've done as a business to adapt to the new government regulations and so on. We also shifted to focus more on social and email marketing to maximize those cost-effective channels. And we leverage more user-generated content and repurpose old assets. And the second thing we did was to try to give back, to try to help people that were in this. So we offered 20% discount for key workers. We also offered free reprints for wedding customers. So as you can imagine, all weddings were cancelled, and brides and grooms and wedding stationers, a big part of our customers, they were affected by this. So we told them, hey, if you had a wedding planned, or if you printed something, we'll do it for you for free. We also shared a lot of uplifting stories from customers printing NHS material. So as this picture shows, there's all these nurses that were printing these signs that they were putting on their cars and so on. We also donated some prints to support charities, and we put together some print templates to help customers so they could print off stuff at their own leisure. And the kind of final thing we did, which was a bit more, we took a bit more time with that because it was a bit of uncertainty. We had some apprehension of doing that, but we expanded our product range by launching this health and safety collection. So we introduced a whole suite of new products, which were sort of personal protective equipment, such as face masks and aprons. So very, very unusual for us as a business because we didn't have that as an offering prior. That's why we were very unsure how people would react to that. We also changed the positioning of some of the existing products we have. So for instance, indoor posters or spread cards, we changed that to, as you can see in the artwork, how to wash your hands. And then we offered that artwork as a free downloadable template that people could come and print off. So to help businesses get back on their feet and start trading again. And that was also received very well. So in terms of customer behavior, what we noticed that changed, that businesses, they stopped spending unless it was absolutely necessary. So they were very mindful of spend, similar to us as well. The hospitality and retail sectors was significantly silent for a long time, and just recently have started to come back. But also the creative sector. So all these creatives that have Etsy shops and are selling posters and postcards and all this creative stuff, they also have suffered massively. But however, what we saw was more personal customers came on board. So people were printing more greeting cards and more personal things to share with their loved ones. And initially what we noticed was people were very engaged with any sort of COVID update, but eventually they wanted more positive and uplifting content. So they didn't want to focus on the virus anymore. They were like, we know this is going on, but stop talking about this virus. And also we saw that in our community, social, people were showing loads of love, loads of care. You can see we got so many positive comments from people. And, you could feel that there was much more emotions going on in the way people were communicating with us. And engagement went up on social channels by double digits throughout March and April. So showing that people were much more engaged with us as a brand. And also email, the same thing, went up by almost 10%, the open rate. So people were engaging more with our emails. And unsubscribe rates dropped by almost half. So that was very sort of positive metrics for us. And just to conclude, I think that, what we notice is that people want to feel a human connection with your brand. They want to feel that, we're all in this together, that it's not just a corporation or some kind of business wanting to, put their hand in your pocket, that, there are people behind the brand and we're all going through the same thing. We also, notice that you have to acknowledge the situation, that say, yes, this is happening and business is not as usual, because that's not the case. But you also want to radiate some positivity and share uplifting content and stories that could cheer people up. New products were welcome, especially that can help people. So with the range that we launched, we had very positive feedback, and it actually has been helping people and businesses to get back up and running. And customers are still receptive of offers and discounts. So it's interesting to hear what Seb said, but for us at least, we had a few promotions, and it was actually quite successful, and people were still taking advantage of those discounts. And finally, people have much more time on their hands to engage on social and email. So those two channels have become very, very important to keep in touch with your customer and make the most of those channels to keep your brand on top of mind. And that's it for me.
Great, thank you so much. That was amazing. That's actually a beautiful segue into Natalie's presentation. So I will, once she's set up, let her take off. We've actually had loads of questions in Slido that haven't updated yet for our screen, but if you do want to contribute more questions, just go to the email that we've sent you from tech@treatwell and join the Slido to ask our speakers any questions. Thank you, Natalie.
Okay, great. Hopefully you can see my screen. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm Natalie, lead product designer at Peanut. I'm going to talk to you about some changes we made in our product as the global pandemic evolved. So firstly, I'll just tell you a little bit about Peanut for those of you who aren't familiar. So Peanut is the first social network for women. Peanut's a social networking app that connects like-minded women at similar life stages. Our mission is to create a safe space for women at all stages in their journey through motherhood, whether they're trying to conceive for the first time or whether they already have kids. The app is a resource for new mums in US, UK, Canada, and Australia to connect with one another through common interests and values. We focus on the need for a connection between women at a similar life stage and who share common interests and location. So Peanut's designed to give women a network. There are two key focuses to our app: finding new connections by swiping through profiles, and community. Since COVID-19, activity on Peanut has really increased, including a spike in engagement by 30% and 40% increase in content consumption. So the use of community was really increasing. COVID as a topic obviously skyrocketed. So we knew we had to address this. First of all, we wanted to work with what we've already got. So we wanted to look at quick wins. What could we change immediately to start to learn? As Avi mentioned, we couldn't rely on data previously. So by putting something in place immediately with our current tools, we could start to try and learn how behaviors are different with COVID. So what we did is we made groups. So we made groups for all our key communities, and we put groups in place for mothers, for the TTC, that's fertility community, and split those by our key regions. So in US or UK, it was really important that somebody wanting to know about fertility clinic closures, perhaps, in the US had a place to go and be able to ask those specific questions. And they're very different questions to nursery opening rules in the UK. So we did that immediately, created these groups, and we started to allow people to funnel their content, their questions, and their support into these particular areas. So they quickly became very active, but as we know, COVID wasn't just one part of our life anymore. It became everywhere. And we started to see that in the content. So we had lots of engagement in these groups, but actually COVID was visible all across the product, all across community. And what we could see that while some people enjoyed using Peanut to come and share frustrations and seek support around the COVID topic, other people found it overwhelming. And actually what they wanted to do was come to Peanut to step away from the news and look at other topics. So what we realized and we understood was we needed to go a bit further than this, and we needed to make a way to help users focus on different things. Somebody else mentioned actually, as we moved through, people stopped wanting to hear about the virus. So we saw that as one key trend. And what we wanted to do is make sure that we created something that was going to work in the long term. If we were going to make a change to our app, it wasn't going to be something that was just throwaway. It's something that could be useful. And really, it was about control. So we launched a feature called Mute Keywords. So what we did is create quite a simple feature, but just something that allows you to specifically add keywords. And we created a specific link for COVID, adding some key coronavirus terms, and just filter those from your feed. So simply to not see not get push notifications, not see content community around any particular term. So this is useful, obviously, for maybe muting lockdown, or in the US, people didn't want to hear any more about the checks that were arriving. So stimulus is a popular word that got banned. But it's also important because it allowed us to give more control to our users about what they were seeing and in our particular networks. For example, in fertility, there might be something you don't want to hear about. We also have this idea throughout other features in our app. We have a sensitive content filter. Positive pregnancy tests can obviously be a trigger for a woman who is struggling to conceive, and these already sit behind sensitive content filters. So just adding this additional tool could really support similar motivations for those users. So when we launched this, we saw a big uptake in users meeting coronavirus terms, but what we also saw is people picking out their own words and adding specific terms. Users got really excited by the launch. There was a lot of Giphy chat back and forth, and people getting really enthused by the control they could have. People were crafting their feeds and saying how proud they were that they could, I love this, I've got rid of X and Y, and it really excited us. The users love the control, and Peanut is their safe space, and it's up to them what they see. So we think this feature has got longevity. It's not for everyone, and actually it's relatively advanced to be curating your feed very specifically. But what it did do was allow us to push forward the concept of you blocking coronavirus completely from your feed if that's what you wanted to do. So I think I've probably rattled through that really quickly, but thanks very much for listening. And if you've got any questions, do shout them out, and we're hiring. So check out our LinkedIn page for our latest roles.
Thank you. That was amazing. And yeah, definitely, guys, jump on that hiring bandwagon. Now's the time. Thank you so much. And next, we are going to have Camilla presenting. So I will let you get set up and then go for it.
Okay. It's loading. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Cool.
Perfect.
Thank you guys so much for inviting me, and thanks to all the other speakers for coming to share their stories. Definitely lots of the things that you have mentioned have resonated a lot with my personal experience. I'm Camila Diaz, and I'm the head of product design and research at Moonpig. And I hear that many of you have been using us lately and have been receiving lots of Moonpigs. For those of you who aren't familiar with the name, Moonpig is a UK-based e-commerce, and we're mainly known for our personalized greeting cards. We have sites in the UK, which is our biggest market, USA, and Australia. I'm going to tell you a story about how Moonpig has been doing through the pandemic, and to do this, I'm going to be using our own cards. I wanted to give a shout out to our talented card designers. To this day, we have been in lockdown exactly 60 days, and it's been an absolutely crazy ride. When Moonpig decided to start working remotely, we were just about to enter Mother's Day. Now, Mother's Day is our biggest peak of the year, and teams prepare for months for just this weekend. This year, we started seeing a change in numbers a couple of weeks before Mother's Day, and we saw an unusual upswing on the amount of new customers, and sales were going up, and before we knew it, bam, all of our products started flying off the virtual shelves. Pages were becoming empty faster than we could hide them. And that weekend, we broke every record and beat every projection the company had. And we've been practically in constant peak mode ever since. Of course, as you would imagine, when people could not physically see their mothers, they resorted to businesses similar to us. The UK was put into lockdown on the 23rd of March, and while our high street competitors started shutting down their physical stores, our sales continued to grow. There was a point where we were faced with the possibility of our factories shutting down, which would have compromised our supply chain. And in an unprecedented turn of events in the company's history, a spontaneous team was formed. At 6 p.m. on a Tuesday, my boss reached out to let me know that the e-cards project that we had been talking about and planning for months was now a top priority for the business, and that I was now the designer leading the project. As you may imagine, I don't do very much hands-on work anymore. My counterpart, James, who is our head of product, was now the PM, and they had also selected a group of 8 of our best engineers to work on the project. There was absolutely no time to lose. With the lingering threat of our factories closing, we just got started. And on the first day, I ran a 5-day design sprint, all condensed into 1 day. And by the end of that first day, I was ready to test flows that engineers started building on the second day. We released the whole feature in 1 week. Of course, it was buggy and we're still iterating on it, but it was released on the first day and it started selling up within the first 24 hours. This was successful because it was a combined effort of every department in the company that had one clear goal: provide our users with the means of staying connected with their loved ones possibly in the absence of physical cards. And we managed to do all this as a remote team. As a company, we learned the valuable lesson from the eCards experience. We saw that having a clear focus in collaboration can achieve what it can achieve at a company level. And now we are looking for more opportunities of this kind that we can use to bridge cross-team collaboration. In mid-April, Moonpig decided to donate all the proceeds of eCards. Moonpig is a company with a very strong social conscience, and they decided to donate all of the proceeds for the remains of the month to a few different charities. When it comes to the people, Moonpig is a roughly 210 plus people company, and almost everybody knows each other by their first name. I've only been in the company for about 6 months, and I feel this to be the case. The company culture is very strong, and our senior leadership has been really good at communicating during the crisis. And things like mental well-being have been front and center of every decision. We know that we are incredibly lucky that one of the side effects of the pandemic is that our sales tripled. And the fact that we don't have to worry about our jobs takes away lots of the pressure. We didn't have to furlough or make redundant anybody. We know we're incredibly fortunate, but we're also very mindful of what has produced these results. We know that lots of people is going through a challenging time right now, having to work from home, living in tiny London flats, having their kids all day around, maybe living in shared accommodation, and we try to be mindful. For myself, supporting the team has been crucial during these times. And as a manager, the amount of meetings I have has doubled. Some people in our team joined during the lockdown. So for me, creating a sense of community has been super important. At a company level, we've been having lots of social activities. We have things like weekly yoga and meditation. And what you see in these images is a flower arranging workshop that Moonpig organized, where they sent us one of our own bouquets home. And our flowers expert taught us a workshop on how to do flower arrangement. Afterwards, we all posted our flowers in the company social channels, and the one in the last corner to the right, the one with the pink card, that's mine. When it comes to understanding our customers, our strategy has changed over the last few months, as you would expect when you're in a position where it doesn't matter what you do, you will sell everything. Because of this special scenario, we've been allowed to set our focus on experimentation, on doing research, and on UX and tech improvements, with the aim specifically of growing loyalty. One of the first reactions we had was around the messaging of the site. We know that we sit in the pyramid of hierarchies. We sit in the belonging and love level. I'll just go through the next slides really quickly. So understanding where we come in the priorities and being able to support our customers is key to the development of the product. Lastly, one of the changes in behavior that we started seeing is with an increase on 25% of our user base, we started seeing some trends on changes in categories, such as children and grandchildren, which are not very common. We inferred from this that most of these new customers were maybe older customers who are normally high street shoppers and who have now, because of the pandemic, had to overcome barriers to online. So we need to continue to explore shopping habits and UX needs. And to finalize, in the end, it is adverse situations like this that makes us stronger. One way I've personally managed to remain positive has been by finding a silver lining on all this. Keeping in mind that through history, we have had pandemics every century, and it was not a matter of why, but of when. And as a species, we have never been better prepared. Now we have science, we have technology, and instant communications, and we are really going to get through this together. The important thing is to keep supporting each other and to remember to stay connected. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Camilla. That was so insightful, and it's lovely to see that Moonpig has employees so central to their branding and that you feel passionate about that. Up next is Louis for Kazoo. So I'll let you get set up.
Great, thank you. And hopefully, can everyone see that?
Yeah, thank you.
Brilliant, thanks. Hi, everyone. So my name is Louis Badcock. I'm the Product and UX Director at Kazoo, and I'm going to talk to you a bit about some of the challenges of starting a business just before a pandemic, which is a fairly novel situation. But first of all, Kahoo, you probably haven't heard of this. By the way, excuse the hand drawings in this. I found it a quicker way of preparing presentation at short notice than regular slides. So here's our proposition. Basically, we are a retailer of used cars. We have over 2,000 cars in stock on our website, and you can buy entirely online, including part exchanging your old car and arranging finance. And we will deliver the car to you in a lovely branded transporter with free home delivery, sort of 2-hour delivery slots, 7 days a week. And to get around the fact that you've never seen the car in real life, you get a 7-day money back guarantee. So if at the end of that period you decide actually the car's not right for me, that's absolutely fine. You can just call us and we will come and take it off your hands and give you a full refund. So it's quite a different way to buying cars. The used car market in the UK is absolutely huge. It's, or at least it was before the pandemic, it's a £50 billion a year market, where on about 8 million transactions per year. It's very fragmented, lots of different car dealerships across the UK, and none of them have more than 2 to 3% of the market. And traditionally as well, well, the market offers very, very poor customer experience. And, when you consider it's such an expensive item, sort of the average price of a used car is about £12,000, way more than the price that you'd pay for like an iPhone or something like that. The actual customer experience you get is generally terrible. And there's obviously a low level of trust in sort of traditional car dealers. So Kazoo is all about sort of trying to fix that. And we get around it with the things I've sort of just talked about there, but also on the site, which is our showroom. We provide extensive car information and imagery. We point out all the imperfections and all the issues with the car so that you know what you're buying. And it's founded by this gentleman here, who's Alex Chesterman, who founded Love Film and more recently Zoopla. And there's 300 of us in total. And a bit about products at Kazoo. So we're kind of like, I'm sure many of the people on this video conference probably heard all this before, but it's very important to me that we build a sort of a great product culture at Kazoo, and we're all about making sure that we're building the right thing with our kind of counterparts in engineering who are all about building the thing right, although it's a shared thing, it's a shared responsibility, it's a team sport, and so we're set up under one banner, we're very much about leading with discovery, i.e. How can you build confidence that the thing you're building is actually the right thing, and so we sort of, like the likes of Marty Kagan, Jeff Patton et al., they're all very much sort of our influences. We strive to empower our product teams to discover opportunities and solutions in their area of responsibility. And we, being a new business, we kind of have the benefits of building, we built a very modern tech platform using entirely serverless and a raft of very scalable technologies, delivering our website in 6 months. So that's a bit about us. And so what about the crisis then? So Kazoo, we launched the business in December last year, and it was all going very nicely. We launched in a time of year which is traditionally very quiet for used car sales, and kind of with no advertising. We then sort of started to ramp up the advertising in the new year, and then we switched on television adverts in February, which literally changed all of our metrics, and suddenly kind of conversion, everything just went up. It was so finding sales wasn't a challenge for us. We were finding actually that the scaling of the business behind the scenes was the challenge. But then the crisis struck, and we went into lockdown, and crucially for us, this impacted our ability to actually do deliveries and also operate our reconditioning centre, which is in Corby in the Midlands, where we basically prepare our cars. And so we had to basically put a pause on the physical side of the operation, even though the digital side obviously was still fine. And the metrics went just completely crazy, to be honest. Sort of traffic, conversion, some of our key metrics around viewing product pages all went totally through sort of very strange numbers, because it was a very, very strange time. And this, particularly for product teams, makes it very hard to measure the impact of what you're actually doing and delivering, because we were still delivering in this period. So what did we do? 5 things. So one, we adapted our sort of the handover experience where we deliver the cars to our customers to make it safe, and changed our ways of working for our operational staff. Secondly, we paused our deliveries while we did all of the above, as the date says there. We also introduced an NHS Heroes offer, so offering £250 off cars for NHS key workers. We paused our advertising and we recut our TV and radio adverts to focus on the elements of safe home delivery. And also we introduced some clear signposting across the website to say that we are still open and you can still order from this date onwards. So also, I'd like to kind of just call out some of our ways of working impacts that we had over this period, because obviously we've all sort of shifted very dramatically to working from home. And we've sort of done things like we sort of over-indexed on Ask Me Anything kind of sessions with our teams. We did them quite regularly and literally very open, particularly at the beginning. It was very useful while there was a lot of confusion going on around what's sort of happening with the business. Slack, obviously, extensive use of that in these times, including channels like we have a working from home channel where people just say good morning in the morning. That's all it's used for, and just saying hi, but it's quite nice. Miro, we've used a lot of Miro actually in terms of being able to whiteboard remotely. It has really come into its own, and I thought that we would really struggle with whiteboarding in a remote setting, but actually Miro has worked very, very, very well. and then we've activities going on. So we do workouts in the morning, and we have a permanent Google Hangouts, which is called The Kitchen, where anyone can just basically drop in at any time and just sort of make sure they're connected with their colleagues. So what have we learned during this period? 5 things. So one, people still need cars, even though the economic situation in the country has changed, and we're in lockdown, and it differs across cities and towns. The market is not going away, and people, especially if you need a car now, especially if you're a key worker, that's not going to change. Secondly, we also found that, really interestingly, when we started Kazoo, people said, would people ever buy a car online? And we found that people did, but interestingly, the attitudes have really changed since the crisis. It's really accelerated that. So before, a survey of 500 customers found that 36% of people would be willing to do it. This has risen to 64% since the crisis. This has also accelerated the competition, of course, with a load of car dealerships across the country now having to be closed. They've now started to try to offer and sell their stock online. We've also found that despite sort of lots of clear signposting, or what we think is clear signposting across our entire customer experience, people still contact us to say, are you still open? Can you help us? And so we've actually been dealing with a real surge in traffic for contacts. And finally, orders are now actually beginning to sort of go back up again, which is great. Now we're delivering again, which is we're very fortunate really to be in that position. But interestingly, scaling our operation, which is one of the biggest challenges of Kazoo, because moving cars around the country, reconditioning them, etc., is actually a very complicated business. That piece has very quickly returned to be a very key challenge for us, even though it calmed down for a bit. So there's a theme there, I think, about, if in these periods, if it offers you an opportunity to fix the roof while the sun is shining, then you should absolutely seize it. And that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was so fascinating. Well, we wish you the best of luck at Kazoo, and I hope it goes well with all the developments. So next we have Danny, and I will let you go.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah, hopefully you can see my screen as well.
Not quite yet, but I'm sure it will be coming up.
Can you see it now?
No. This is a very good time while you're getting set up to just quickly say that once again, anyone getting on Slido, we'd love your questions. You can upvote, you can direct them to specific speakers, and also this whole session has been recorded. If you have anything, please don't worry, you will get an email. Here we go. All ready, Danny?
Cool. So yeah, thanks Louisa for inviting me to the webinar. I've really loved listening to the other panelists about their experiences. So yeah, I'm now going to talk a bit more about CyberDuck, and how we've used this particular crisis as a growth catalyst. So CyberDuck, we're a digital transformation agency. We specialize in digital transformation through UX and web application development. And I guess as an agency, our product and service is our team. So the human aspect in this talk is very kind of important to me. Yeah, and obviously this particular photo that you can see here was taken probably about 2 weeks before the pandemic. So it was kind of the last time that we had the team together. Yeah, in the talk today, I'm going to talk a bit more about how this crisis has impacted our proposition and what we've sort of learned and what we're doing as well. Yeah, interestingly, so as well as being the CEO of CyberDuck, I'm working from home like everyone else with these 2 little people. So obviously it hits sort of home quite hard when you have to take the older one out of school, and then you have a baby around the house as well. So yeah, it's been an interesting time to say the least. And just to say a bit more about CyberDuck. So yeah, we've been going for 15 years now. We transform complex web applications through an ISO accredited UX and software engineering methodology. And yeah, I mean, my background as well is in user-centered design. So I've pretty much been working as a designer since 1998. But now I sort of work more on the business side, but still kind of get involved with key clients. In terms of some of the clients that we work with, so we work with the likes of Bank of England, Compare the Market, Cancer Research Technology, quite a lot of government projects as well. And interestingly, I don't think anybody really predicted what was going to happen with this pandemic. And one of my sort of favorite quotes is from Nassim Taleb, who wrote the book The Black Swan, where he basically said information is actually bad for knowledge. And what's actually happened here is a black swan event, and we were all sort of, I guess, blinded by the day-to-day, the monthly paychecks, the sort of the factual knowledge and history. And I think the main thing, I guess, to take away from this is nobody can really predict the future, not even the best economists. And this isn't necessarily a negative message. It's actually, there can be white swan events that could be a great sort of comeback very soon. So like Camilla, I'm really positive about the future and kind of where things are going to go. But I guess preparation is really, really key. So when I guess we started to see what's happening in China and all over the place, we really started to look at the different data, and we actually closed our office it was sort of towards the end of the first week of March, 22 days before the lockdown. We just sent everybody home. We sort of explained to clients that we're not going to be meeting them face to face anymore. And then we had to sort of shift kind of entirely how we worked. So we're fortunate enough to have out of, I guess, 60 people, sort of 10 were already working from home in countries like Portugal, Spain, America. So we have a global team. So we're sort of pretty set up for working from home anyway, even though it was kind of like we had no idea what was actually going to happen, and we all started working from home. So that was quite interesting. And then we saw, like, obviously our researchers basically spoke to clients, we spoke to users, and we started to understand what was happening. There was a huge surge in internet usage. Websites became more and more important. The projects that we were doing became kind of more pivotal. People weren't going out. As you can see on some of the graphs here, like education, communication, entire neighborhoods now were communicating online. It wasn't a luxury anymore. It was like a must-have. Things like, older demographics in particular around accessibility. We saw with some of our clients that was becoming even more focal points, making sure that things are really, really clear. And then actually reimagining the future and looking at things like, social distancing. Is this actually going to become a big opportunity for all of us? I think it will be. There's a really good quote, with constraints, that there's tremendous sort of creative opportunity. And during the first week of the lockdown, we won a substantial, I can't sort of say who it is because of the NDAs until we launched, but we won a sort of substantial travel clients who invested, they basically recognise that, look, they're not making any money at the moment, but what they do have is a lot of time to really sort of reimagine the service design of their product and re-engineer the product. Another thing that was really important for us was communication. Sort of there's a really good quote from Winston Churchill that goes, this is not the end, it's not even the beginning of the end, but it is perhaps the end of the beginning. And that was kind of during, I think it was like 1942 that he kind of came up with that, because obviously people were already really tired of the war. This particular message has now been used by Bill Gates and kind of lots of others to describe the pandemic. So at Cyberduck, I had to sort of, me and the other leaders in the business, we really had to come up with clear messages to the team. What are we actually focusing on? Of course, there was some financial sort of challenges as well as growth challenges as well. So we kind of came up with stability, growth, and togetherness. So in terms of stability, first of all, we wanted to make sure we've got the right tools to do the job. Some of them were mentioned already: Slack, Miro. We also started to use HiBob. It was quite lucky that we decided to use that particular HR tool before. And then ClickUp for sort of project and product management. Absolutely great tools, really improved productivity. But we also had to change kind of leadership patterns. So we started to have like a weekly company-wide meeting. It was 1 hour where we I kind of explained everything from the finances, cash flow, pretty much everything. And we ran sort of in this particular, or we run in this particular weekly meeting, show and tells, where we get different teams working on different projects and products for clients to present kind of what they learned. We then have a kind of a town hall where everyone in the company has a chance to ask me and the other directors questions. We then kind of shifted, we then in each week talk about sort of the growth and what we're doing to grow our business, and obviously, as I mentioned, we've been doing really well during the pandemic. We launched 5 campaigns. One of them is around like Drupal 9 kind of upgrades, because obviously Drupal is at the end of its life now, and essentially a lot of big businesses are running Drupal websites, and soon they're going to lose support. So we carefully came up with some really I think clever sort of lead generation campaigns targeting the different kind of sectors and different industries based on our products. One of the things that we could see is like technical debt, usability, UX, and accessibility are massive problems for most businesses today. They still are, even though sort of we're 2020 and product design UX is kind of really kind of prevalent. There are still huge kind of problems out there. So yeah, we just continue to invest in kind of lead generation. And then I guess the final sort of piece of communication that we deliver every week is around how we're kind of going to get the team. So again, this photo was taken sort of a few weeks before the pandemic, how we're basically going to get the team on board. Because whatever we do on the business side, it's not going to work without the team's commitment and respect, and ultimately their sort of well-being, which is, some people in the team, taking the pandemic better than others. I'm sure you've seen it in your own businesses where some people are just sort of quite challenged by it. It just depends on how they've been, conditioned, and they're kind of, I guess, how they're just taking it, really. So we established that we need, a different type of kind of leadership approach. And we also started to encourage kind of a new type of manager. So this was a really good article on the Next Web, where they were talking about the new generation kind of managers versus the old generation of managers. The new leader is responsible for top morale, creativity, physical and kind of social. So we started to encourage the team to kind of take walks out during the day to get fit. And also sort of to encourage the people in the business that are really, really good with kind of online tools to, just sort of prime those individuals to become managers of the future, really. We then brought in a Dr. Anna Abramovsky, who was a leading clinical and counseling psychologist, to basically just run mindfulness sessions with the team as well. And on the left-hand side, you can see kind of the letter that I wrote to the team, or part of the letter around how we're going to be communicating with them. We then started to run gaming nights. So this is kind of Mario Kart with the team. Every day we also have a coffee break with the team. I encourage everyone to go onto Zoom and just kind of have a coffee and sort of talk about what they've made for lunch. We also have weekly yoga sessions now. So again, very, very popular. Just to sort of, I guess, wrap up. So I think it's important to live every day in your business as if it's your last day. Be ready for the next white or black swan. So again, good things are going to happen as well as kind of this pandemic. So I guess it's about, similar to like what Lewis said, it's all about preparation, right? You need to be prepared for that. Communication and clarity is probably the most important thing, with your team and with your colleagues. And I think constraints and kind of frustrations that we've all had them. They are going to lead to the biggest opportunities, because ultimately we have to reinvent how we work and what we do. So thanks. Here's my email address in case you want to get in touch with me or other people in the team.
Great, thank you so much, Danny. That was so great to hear. Really cool insights. Last up, we have Will. Quickly, just as a reminder, you've all been sent a email again from Tech at Treatwell, just to get you on the Slido link. We have loads of questions, but we really want to get some lively debate going and some different insights. So thank you so much. And Will, handing over to you.
Hi. I come from this a slightly different perspective to most of the speakers. So I'm an investor and a board member and have been for a number of years. Looking at what's happened during the last few weeks has been really, I find it very interesting in that almost all the businesses and charities I'm involved with have sort of come to similar conclusions. It started from 2019, where most of us have had a good 10 years of growth. Most valuations have been very high. Most people have raised money when they needed to. And I think a lot of our budgets and forecasts from 2019 came through saying this is going to be a great year in 2020. Bang, COVID comes along. It's not a great year. In my reading, I think most people are going to lose a year in what's happening on their business or their organization. And I think our ambitious plans have mostly gone out of the window. Some people are benefiting from it, but in the wider sense, the money is going to be shorter. Our customers are going to be, our service users are going to be less ambitious in what they want to do. And we are going to see ourselves having to look at a different world to what we thought in November, December. Our communities during the crisis have looked to us for particular parts of whatever it is we might have offered. When you have a great run, as we've had up to 2019, you tend to sort of start doing a little bit more than our core business might have been, where we thought we might have been as our tight core. And you put a lot of wish lists in place because things are great and the money's there to do it. And I think what's emerged is that our own communities have tended to look at us for what they really believe that we as an organization can do. And that might be, we might be meeting with a load of others, but actually they look at us for what we should really see as our core business. And drifting away from our core business is something that always seems to happen when times are great. So because it's been so tough, we are now saying, what is it that our customers are looking to us for? Which bit of all the things that we offer do they really value? And how can we make the most of those insights? And what it's meant in 2 or 3 of the businesses I'm involved with, some mostly B2C, they're looking at it and saying all over, why do we need premises? Why do we need to be able to reach people from physical spaces? I think most people are saying, why do we need fancy offices? Why do we need offices at all? Why can't we run our businesses in a remote way, the way we've all managed it when we're not actually going into our workplaces? And I think the other insight that's come to everybody is a feeling that our members, our staff, the people we work with, may not have had as much value put into them as they are now suggesting should happen in a time when people are feeling fearful and frightened to some extent. So it's very interesting to watch organizations and to which one have their teams behind us and with them, and therefore they're able to do all the things that they wish to do ambitiously during the crisis. But actually, there are a lot of organizations where, when you can see it with the teachers now saying, we don't really want to get involved with this. We're a little bit fearful. We don't quite know where we sit. And actually, it pulls out a completely different sort of leadership, where leadership has had to involve and bring people together in a way that they might have not thought about very much beforehand. So I think there's two big things. What is the core business? And the second one is, how are we going to deal with our people internally, and then to be able to do the best for our communities externally. I am thinking in the context of the digital economy, there is, once you've defined which bit of the many things we might do as an organization we're going to do really well and properly, I think there's a need sometimes to really simplify the message that might be going across to the outside world, and to review exactly how we're putting ourselves across. There's a great McDonald's expression, KISS, K-I-S-S, keep it simple, stupid. And it's a mantra that I've always felt is essential actually in business, because we tend to get wrapped up in our own internal cultures, and sometimes we forget exactly what it is that our user groups, our customers, our communities might want from us, and particularly people who don't know us at all. So as you go out and search for new customers, just simplify it. And I think a good measure is what I call an idiot check. So it's, can your granny understand what it is you're trying to put across in a digital environment? And if your granny can understand it, it's going to get there all the way through. And we get tempted to use jargon, we get tempted to talk to our peer groups and actually make things very complicated. And simplicity is what really, really scores when you're trying to scale and build your businesses. So I think from coming out, as we come through the next few months, I think it's going to still feel pretty uncertain. I think the investment community is going to be tricky. My own view is that we stand a chance in the autumn of pulling back some of what we've might have lost. But to me as a whole, if we accept the fact that we've actually lost a year, and just what are we going to do and how are we going to approach next year, there's no point in beating ourselves up and saying, what on earth am I going to do in this terrible current environment? But actually take it forward, saying, put it behind us, move into harder and deeper and better at our core business, get rid of peripheral activities, and really concentrate on our own people being able to deliver what it is that our customers are wanting from us. And in every context, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Will. That's absolutely fascinating. I'm sure we all subscribe, or should always subscribe, to the KISS mentality. So I'm going to quickly, we've got some questions from Slido. Well, that's an easy one. Seb, would you mind kicking us off with how has your roadmap been affected and or changed long term?
Yep, definitely. So I obviously alluded to it earlier, but we did do some rethinking. It was a bit of a weird thing as the head of consumer product. Ultimately, I turned it into how could I make sure that our partners remain successful on the other side of things. So actually, it doubled down as to how can the consumer team help the supply side of our business to make our partners successful and keep them in business ultimately. There were kind of three pillars that we looked at in this, and one was, does a project really kind of make sense in the current operating climate? So we were doing some things around revenue protection and the like. Well, we had no revenue now, so actually there was probably no much point continuing with that. So we kind of put that on pause. We also kind of sat there and thought about what the future of we kind of hypothesized what we thought the state of the market may be on the other side. And then also we had kind of 60% of our organization on furlough. So we also wanted to be demonstrably showing value. Like, we were very fortunate as the tech organization that we could still keep operating in our normal way, okay, it'd be from home, but we were one of the very few departments within the organization that could still fully do our job and deliver value. So we just were laser focused on making sure we were delivering that value. So it helped accelerate certain projects. It kind of reinforced some things that we were doing, like that actually now the need was even greater. So how do we're expecting more people, more partners and salons to want to come and join the platform. So actually operationally, how do we enable more people to get onto the platform easier? I mentioned about the fact that people aren't as price sensitive at the moment, but we still do believe from the research that we've seen and the fact that that average order value has now returned back to normal, that people will become price sensitive. And, the supply side of the business are helping salon owners to be able to segment their customer base significantly so that they can only discount to a smaller minority of people, and it's much more targeted. But actually, we saw it there and looked, well, what, if that customer then arrives on our platform, well, actually, we probably don't do a good enough job of selling that discount or the fact that they've got that offer. So what can we do as a consumer team to be completely sure that the offer they've been sent from the salon by the supply side of our business will actually convert them when they get to the platform, and really tying up those journeys of the initiatives that the supply organisation were doing, and how we could help. And also at the same time, we also knew that as more partners and more salons were probably wanting to go online, how would we stand out in front of the competition, and basically position our product way up there so that we were the first choice for them when they joined, when they were looking for a partner to take their business online.
Amazing, thank you, Seb. Well, as this one is specific, should we do one for Kim as well? What are some examples of mindsets that have framed your work?
Well, I mean, they're completely different depending on what the different projects are. So you always have to go. We do a lot of stakeholder interviews to try and figure out what they need to be from the business side, but also a lot of user interviews and surveys and stuff to figure out what they'd be from, I guess, that standpoint as well. Some example ones, I'm trying to think of which ones are actually easiest to talk about without you knowing the context, the entire context of the project, which always makes it a bit difficult. Well, so what we've done before, so this was for a B2B project, and it was for a digital asset management system. And it was about, so what are the things that people are coming in there with that in mind? So there's things like communication. It's people going in and trying to find different pieces of information because they wanted to actually communicate. So they were there for the express purpose of needing help communicating either a sales plan or some sort of thing to different people. So they weren't necessarily looking for insights. They weren't necessarily looking for things that, other things like that. But it was about communication and just facilitating that communication for them. And then also in the same project, there was one around efficiency, which you'd think everyone wants to be efficient. But again, this is people that wanted to go in there, get it done, not look at anything else, just kind of be as accurate as possible and then just have it over with. But I mean, those, like I said, were for a B2B project, and you'd have different mindsets that could span a lot of completely different things, depending on who the client is, like what the customer base is, whether you're talking to someone in the business aspect of things, or if it's, from a more consumer standpoint as well. But hopefully that answered your question a little bit.
Thank you, that was fantastic. Okay, another one for Natalie. Disappeared. I think it said, loved what you guys did. Natalie, did you actually read the question? Oh, there we go. How did you come up with the idea? Did you get your users' feedback that they wanted to hear something else?
So we're a pretty small team, and I was super jealous when someone mentioned having 4 researchers, but all of our little lean team spend a lot of time in the app reading a lot of content and chatting to users. We do the usual sort of, we reach out wherever we can, wherever we see people looking at content aligned with looking at the data. So I mentioned we had an increase of usage in community. So users that previously had been coming more just to find friends, to look for connections, were more in the community. So we had this increase of people discovering how they used it. So we could use the data there to understand what people were looking at, what people were engaging with. We chatted to people, like we looked at the community ourselves, we saw how it felt, we talked to everyone we know, we talked to all the customers that we could, like we literally like message people and chat to them when we see them having conversations and dialogue around particular themes, so doing as much of that as possible, getting ahead in the product helps us to come up with the ideas. And like with a lot of our ideas, it's brainstorming. We have a remote team anyway, alongside a London office, so we're very used to jumping on big hangouts and discussing ideas. So as is normal in our team, it's super collaborative. Somebody says, I just want to mute it, and that's where the idea starts.
Cool, awesome, thank you. That was super insightful. Camilla, one for you. Why was the business not orientated before to do e-carts? Are you considering now to have this product in the future too?
We had been talking about having e-cards for months, and we were planning, and originally it was going to take 3 months of a designer, and it was going to cost around £1 million. And then when we were under stress, it took a week, costed probably a quarter of that. And this is now part of our offering. We continue refining it. Now we're just trying to prove that having e-cards alongside our physical cards is not cannibalizing our offer, but it is very much now part of the products we offer.
Nice, love it. Thank you. Abby, this might be a good one for you. What's your advice for an early stage startup pre-seed building a business during COVID-19? Oh, not here. Okay, well, this might, are you still? Oh, Abby, did you hear my question?
Yeah.
Fab, thank
Sorry
you.
for that. What I would advise is, I think there are new ways of researching. I guess it depends in what industry you're in. Like, I had a startup in the hospitality industry. My advice is mainly speak to your users. Find the time to talk to them as much as you can. If you can, even work next to them. So when I had my own startup, we were on top of a restaurant. So everything that we wanted to test, we just literally went downstairs and were able to test with them. And also look at like the regulations and the new opportunities that are coming, and you see if you can slot. When you make a startup, you make a bet towards the future, and you believe that something is going to happen, and then you believe also that no one else has identified that opportunity or like is doing it well enough, and then you just need to go for it. And there's a lot of ups and downs, but I guess that's the life of the roller coaster of having a startup.
Nice, thank you so much. Okay, Danny, this might be a good one for you. What do you think UX roles will have? What do you think? I guess that's about UX roles. Will they have any boundaries moving forward?
Yeah, it's I guess it's a good question in terms of whether they'll have boundaries moving forward. I think the boundaries are kind of falling down all the time, really, in the sense that there's no real boundaries. I think a UX professional really has to sort of. I mean, I guess it depends on what type of UX they mean here, that the person who asked the question, but I think certainly sort of for broad multidiscipline kind of UX professionals, they need to really be able to deal with the research. They need to essentially work like detectives. They need to understand. It's essentially UX and kind of products is now becoming more or less one of the same. So it's a UX designer, product designer. It's very, very kind of similar, very, very broad. They need to understand the technology side. They need to understand the marketing side. They need to understand the kind of the data side as well, like the data science as well. So yeah, I think the more people know, the more they learn, the more sort of, I guess, they push the boundaries, the more employable they're going to be, and the more useful they're going to be, especially in today's world. And I guess once you qualify as a UX professional, you can specialize. You can be somebody who does more management, or potentially somebody who does more kind of interface design and more research. But yeah, hopefully I've answered the question.
Thank you so much. Amazing. So, Will, it would be amazing to chat to you about the next one. Danny, thank you. How will the current ways of working and thinking be taken into life after lockdown and beyond, if at all?
I think that in smaller businesses and startups, in places where we all have complete control, we will be taking what has been best about lockdown and keeping going that way. I'm invested in a business where they're living the 4-hour work week. I'm sure you've all read it or come across it, where you're saying, how can I extend myself beyond just sitting with my colleagues doing X, Y, Z, and how can I build my business without all the infrastructure that seems to come along as you scale? So I think the brave business will do it. I think there'll be reluctance in big institutions and big bureaucracies, and I would have thought that maybe some of us will be saying, why am I working within those big bureaucracies? It's much more fun to be able to do it in the way we've all learned, being away from offices, away from commuting, not sitting on the tube.
Fab. Thank you, Will. Thank you so much. Next question. So we'll stick to the last two. So Marius will answer this one, and then Danny's very kindly taking our last question for us.
Right. So in terms of any advice I would give myself at the start of my career, I would probably just tell anybody who's starting their career that you have to be patient. You have to really, know that things take time. If you want to climb in your career and if you have ambitions, it won't happen overnight. You have to obviously work hard, show good work ethic, and be dedicated to the business. Just try to serve the business as best as you can, and try to align your own ambitions with the business, and that will be creating a win-win situation for both yourself and whoever that you're working for.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I think that's valuable advice. Last one for you, Danny.
Yeah, so I think this is probably a very tricky question to kind of answer, but I think one of the things, I'm very optimistic about, work, especially like for primarily, I guess, digital professionals. It's relatively easy. My only, I guess, it's also more sustainable. It's definitely more productive. Like, I was surprised even with myself at how much more productive kind of I became, even though I'm not the sort of person that sits down on a laptop or computer all day. I have to sort of walk around and speak to people when I'm in the physical office, that is. But I think one of the only kind of drawbacks, or not one of the only, but a big drawback, I think, for working kind of from home is you can't really foster the same kind of knowledge culture that you would, let's say, have in a physical office. As in, my only concern would be around the younger generation, people who are sort of, I guess, graduating now, to see them kind of working from home and not having the same experiences that, let's say, we've all had, working in offices, physically seeing each other every day. I think people are going to miss that, and I'm confident as well that things will resume to some sort of type of new normality where eventually people will be able to work in offices again. So whether that's going to happen in 4 weeks from today or 6 months, remains to be seen. But there will be some form of kind of coming back to offices, and I think it will be important. There are still some things that as great as we are and as efficient as we are, I think that working in a physical environment is beneficial in many respects.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Well, guys, that takes us to the end. It's been amazing to have you all here. Thank you so much. I know that I've learned so much, and I'm sure everyone who's watching will have really learned a lot too. So just to remind everyone, this is being recorded, so you will be able to see it later. Give us a follow at Treatwell Tech to keep updated, and I'm sure our speakers would also will share their handles. I can share them on the email later, with Kim's lovely presentation. So thank you so much for everything, guys, and I will see you all later. Have a lovely evening.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.